Hi guys, I'm back in front of camera again because I've got some World War II in front of me. It's the only reason I've been in front of camera all week. But joined by Rob here from Dice Sports.
How we doing?
And we're going to talk about Air Flix. So tell me about this game, how you came about to make it, put it together. You said it's nearly at the end of its fulfillment with Kickstarter, yeah?
Yeah, so we've as everyone else has, we've hit a few stumbling blocks with the old Brexit and the COVID.
Yeah.
But we should be completely finished fulfilling this thing within a couple of weeks of getting back. We have it now currently available through the website we've done kind of a stripped back version of it. So what we really wanted to do with the Kickstarter was use all the money from the Kickstarter to build an entire product line, something that we're going to then move forward with. So the Kickstarter people got quite big sets with a load of other bits and bobs in, but the retail version, it's kind of broken down versions of the stuff that we put in the Kickstarter.
So what about this game in particular? And so what drew you to making an air combat game? Let's start with something as simple as that.
My friend Gary sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, we should do a dexterity dogfighting game." And I agreed.
Pretty straightforward then. That's fine. So when someone's buying this, for example, when this goes completely retail, and is that the aim for it?
So this is like a starter set. So we've got like the starter set's a 3 foot by 2 foot mat, and it's got 6 different planes in it. It just gives you a general feel of the different planes and the way that the actual the way that the combat works. All the stuff in addition to this is basically it's more wargamey. So you're getting kind of squadron boxes with like 3 planes and some cards in it, and then we've got the bigger battle mats for like we've got a Dunkirk map, an El Alamein map, and a Battle of Britain map.
And for example, are those maps, will they come with particular rules about the environment or where you're at? Or
yeah, it's just different game types. So you've got this one's pretty much just a straight dogfight, but you've also got what we call blitz mode, which is bombing targets. So you're trying to flick, like the Battle of Britain one, you're trying to flick Heinkels over the targets. Again, if you want to expand it out, you can buy some Stukas and have some Stuka dive bombers involved as well. So it's like it's war gamey. It's quite freeform in terms of you can add barrage balloons into the game. You can set how many targets they need to hit for it to be a victory condition. So it's more just a little toolbox really for people to play around with.
Yeah. And I know you've got the ones on the table here are painted. Are they going to come pre-painted or are they?
Unfortunately not. They're just coming. The ally stuff's in green and the Axis is in grey. But the thing about this one is, I mean, the paint job that we've got on this stuff on here is quite a rudimentary paint job. It's like 3 or 4 colours on each plane, but it still looks absolutely spectacular, even with a fairly basic paint job on the mat. Just because we went for like with these ones, we went for a slightly lighter colour, so you get a really nice colour pop as you're looking at it. And I think visually, it's kind of what we were after.
Yeah, and you're going to find the historical gamers are going to want to paint particular squadrons and stuff anyway.
That's the other thing as well, because obviously there's desert maps and things on like that. So like for the El Alamein stuff, I know a couple of guys that have backed the Kickstarter have basically done half of the forces in desert colours and half of them in Battle of Britain, sort of greens and greys. So yeah,
it's always better to cater to the historical gamer when you're not providing pre-painted, because you know they're going to change something with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
So can you give me a very brief run on what, say for example, what a turn would involve with this?
Yeah, okay. So I'll show you the most important thing is getting your head around basically the way that the discs behave. So the best way to describe it is it's a game of snooker. This is your snooker ball. This is your cue ball, yeah? So you plant your hand around the disc, you've got a couple of dots at the back that you're allowed to touch between. If you gently push from the back, this disc will go forwards and you'll get a relatively straight. So much like snooker, the hardest thing to do is to make it stay perfectly straight when you hit it. So if you ever get a long pot in a game of snooker and it's a perfectly straight line, they're the ones that you're really going to struggle with.
Yeah.
So most of the time in gameplay, much like a game of snooker, you don't have to do the perfectly straight line. You're always kind of swinging it in by a little bit. So you are trying to line up shots within this firing arc at the front. So we're trying to get here. We get bonuses for rear attacks and close range attacks. So most of the time, we're playing across the same as we would with a snooker ball. To curve the plane in, we've got a dotted line here. We can line a rotating arc that we can then line the shots up with. Or if you're going to be more confident in your ability to line the shots up manually, you would rotate first and then flick to spin to line the shots up. Yeah,
that was a good lineup as well. That was very good.
Done it a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you've also got the hexes confuse people. So people walk past and they assume that it isn't a game that you flick because it's got hexes on it, which would imply that we are moving by hex. But what the hexes are actually for is that because these are planes, if you don't travel fast enough, you're going to fall out of the sky. So if we do this is a foul. So we're still in contact with the same hex we were before we flicked. The plane stalls. It's not allowed to shoot because the guy's concentrating on not crashing, and he takes a point of damage. Yeah. So once you've got your head around the fact that you're obviously flicking the planes to move, and you've got a basic idea of like 80 to 90% of the time they're going to end up where you wanted them to end up, the strategy of the game then comes from the fact that you know people can only turn this far. Yep. You know people have got to travel at least this far. So when you look at the map at the beginning of a turn, you can kind of read it and say, well, this guy's going to end up in this area, this guy's going to end up in this area. And then the strategy of the game comes from like, well, we know he's going to end up here. And the turn order, because the shooting is simultaneous at the end of the round, so we've got the squad boards that we slide up and down. So I play one, they play one, he plays one, we bounce back and forth, shoot at the end. So looking at the map at the beginning and figuring out who's going to move where and the order that they're going to move in, then dictates where all the kill shots are going to come from in the firing phase. So once you've got your head around the actual physical skill of flicking, then it becomes a strategy game.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way of handling a movement mechanic, particularly with aircraft, because it
feels dogfighty. Like when we were designing it originally, we would you'd end up just sort of tipping towards each other, so you were keeping the shots in, and we're like, this isn't a plane game. This doesn't feel like planes. And as soon as we put these hexes in that meant that you'd got to travel so fast, it became a dogfighting game.
That's really fascinating. It's a very interesting system. I think I'm going to have to give this one a go, because this is fascinating. And having such a small, for the starter set, for having such a small set of things, you're getting right into it straight away. You're understanding.
Yeah, it's just getting people into it, and mainly just getting ahead. It's like when you used to have those diddy snooker tables as a kid, and then you'd have to take you to the pub so you could have a proper game.
Yeah,
and then you couldn't pot anything anymore because you'd only ever practice on the little.
You went from being pretty good to being utterly rubbish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this isn't the only game you have here.
No, we've got the.
You have this one behind us as well.
Exodus, which is definitely not a light flicking things around game.
Well, can we have a brief chat about it as well, sure? Yeah. So tell me how this game came to be, or what's the situation with it currently? Is it full retail, or is it still?
This is in a very similar position to Air Flix in that we are like 80 to 90% fulfilled. We've still got Canada, Australia, New Zealand, rest of the world to ship on it, which again is like over the next 2 weeks we should have everything out of the door on this one. So it's been a very intense sort of 2 or 3 months, especially trying to beat the VAT regulation changes and all that kind of stuff that's been going on. So yeah, so it's available through our website for UK and US backers at the moment. It's already been fulfilled, and then we're still fulfilling a few more.
Yeah. So what's the premise of this game then? Give me your water cooler pitch for it.
Oh, right. So it is a comic book narrative driven solo cooperative survival horror game.
That's quite a mouthful.
Yeah. So it's you've got a comic book where you've got a couple of pages of comic book that lead into a mission. So for example, in the story here, we've got this guy who's definitely not Will Smith, and his partner that are trying to escape England because it's been overrun by various nasties, and they come up with the idea of stealing a cargo ship. So in the first mission, you're stealing the cargo ship. They're stopping off and raiding a couple of rooms for supplies on the way. Once they get into the control room on the ship, we get another little sort of like a cutscene, if you will. where they try to power it up and it won't power up, so they need to go down to the engine room and switch something on. They're not quite sure what. So it basically continues like that, and then once they actually get out on the sea, they'll travel for a little bit and they run along some fishing boats, and they end up doing a little mission out in a speedboat where they're going out and they're rescuing a little girl. So I wanted it to feel like a road trip of sorts. So there's a real kind of feeling and emotion through the story. Yeah. Mechanically, it's much more technical than, for example, Zombicide. In that it's quite a big actions list, and a lot of it revolves around the fact that you're tracking ammunition and you're searching rooms, smashing crates, building up a stock of resources which you then carry through to the next mission. So as well as completing the objectives, you've always got to be really, really focusing on building an inventory. So it's much more like the old school Resident Evil games, or the Last of Us was probably the biggest inspiration for the game. I wanted to basically I liked the idea of it being narrative driven, so you've got that story, so you're more engaged with the characters and you care more about what's going on, at the same time as it being an old school survival horror game. Yeah. So it's all about the inventory and building up, and like you spend way more time running away. I'm losing my nose bet. You spend way more time running away than you do actually fighting anything, because we've gone for a much more realistic angle in the combat, because you don't want to be going near.
And that's the trend for these more survival games, and particularly in the video game industry, and I think even Walking Dead was one of the pioneers TV-wise. Yeah. That was like, you don't want to fight these, you want to run. That's the enjoyment of this.
Even the worst units, like the regular zombies that are on there, they're really threatening on their own. If you get taken down, they can bite you. Once you bit, you get infected. Your infection dial ticks down, and you're dead in 15 turns if you don't find something to deal with it. So everything's a threat, and it's a much more realistic take on it. You're trying to one of the biggest mechanical things is we focus on precision versus speed. Yeah. So, for example, when you fire a weapon, you can, if you like, move and shoot, move and shoot, move and shoot, move and shoot. You're spending one action every time you shoot. You're rolling on the quick fire side of the weapons card, which gives you like a 6 to 8 on a D8 chance of hitting. If you stand still and you spend 2 actions, your character's actually going to take aim, fire, and the chance of hit is increased. They'll kill on a 4, they'll knock down on a 3. So if you can create, there's a lot of distance management in the game where you're kind of trying to create space so that you don't have to panic fire. Yeah. And that also plays into the movement of the zombies, where they're going to be moving they move very slowly, a couple of squares every turn, if you're not in line of sight. If they can see you, they move 4. If they can see somebody that's actually further away than somebody that's closer that they can't see, they will speed up and charge at the one that's furthest away, which allows you then to kind of herd them around the board. So on a lot of the missions, you are using one character essentially as bait to pull them in one direction, while another character's carrying out an objective or building up the inventory. You definitely need 2 heroes in play. So this one was, a lot of people complained about, a lot of it, because I follow a lot of the Facebook solo gaming groups and things like that, and people always have that thing of like, it's a co-op game that somebody says has got a solo mode. Essentially, it's the same game, you're running 4 characters. So what I wanted to do with this one is it's 2 campaigns with 2 characters in each. So it's designed for soloists. You need 2 characters because a lot of the mechanics revolve around one person baiting somebody doing something else. So you need those 2 heroes to make it, but it's just easier to manage with 2 heroes than it is with 4. Yeah. But then we bolted on the co-op, so you can play with 4. But it's like, if you ever played like Halo back in the day, you'd have like Master Chief and the Arbiter would be playing as like the 2-player co-op, but you could play with 4 and there'd be 2 guys that nobody really talks about just kind of hanging around in the background. It's that kind of take on it. So the co-op's been added afterwards, but in essence it's a narrative-driven solo game. Yeah,
and I love the fact that it's got that comic book feel to it as well, with your narrative drive behind that being broken into your little cutscenes and stuff like that. I think that's a cool touch.
It's the characters, you it adds a bit of depth to your plastic model.
So, in general, then, how have you enjoyed the Expo? Has it been good to be back, or are you just sort of holding in there?
It's great to be back. I mean, I've seen a lot of people complaining, saying it's too dangerous to do this, but I mean, they've been so on point with the obviously I've been flow testing every day when we've been coming through. You've got people here that are either double vaxxed or have just been tested in a room with like hospital grade air conditioning that's very well spaced out. I mean, it's safer than going to Tesco's.
It's a confidence booster though as well,
Yeah,
and it's good. It's good to have. We found the attitude around here has been a lot more lighthearted. Everyone's happy to be back and coming to play these games with you guys.
I think it's. I mean, and I, like the way it's not good that the reason why it's in such a reduced capacity to previous year. Obviously, that's not a good thing. But for us as smaller publishers, it's been like in some ways a positive in that there's like. We've had a lot more attention, so we've had a really busy stall every day. I mean, we had probably the best Friday that we've ever had at an expo.
I think Air Flix is almost out as well. I don't think you have much left of it, do you?
No, I think there's 2. We've got a show copy and 2 left, and Exodus. I think we've got about 5 left, something like that. So it's been like sales wise, it's been great. And but it's all, when we come down to do the other thing that we do in addition to the 2 games that we do is that we're one of the UK's only real sort of manufacturing and prototyping companies. So whenever we come down and we do a show, on the business to business side of it, it's always beneficial for us to come down. And the really weird thing's been that like that side of the business we've grown over the last 2 years. 18 months of that 2 years has been while people have been in lockdown. So I've literally built up like 200 contacts within the UK industry of all these people that are now using me and recommending me and blah. And like, it's the first time I've met any of them. Yeah. Like coming down here this weekend. So it's literally just been a continuous stream of, hi, I'm such and such. From like, combined with the fact that everybody's got a mask on. So you just like, it's been a really bizarre, just like, hey, like just being introduced to somebody that I already knew through various other things, sort of every 10 or 15 minutes for the entire time we've been down here. So that's been pretty cool.
It's hammering home the importance of the convention and to keep it going, and for you to turn up and you getting to put faces to names and stuff like that has been very important, obviously, to you.
Absolutely, yeah. Just meeting people in person. It's just not the same over the emails and the various Facebook groups. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we managed to get out one of the nights while we're down here with the guys, because we're down here with like Wordforge and Nightfall Games as well. They're guys that we're, over the years have become really close friends, and it's like, as much as not seeing people at home, it's that again. You're not seeing people that over the years you've really grown a really kind of close bond with, and actually getting out and having a steak with them and a few beers has just been like, it's been very, very, very positive. I can't say anything bad about it at all. It's been great. It's great to be back.
Well, it's been great to talk to you, Rob, and see the 2 games here. I have a feeling after the camera switches off, you'll be down a copy of Air Flix, because it's a fascinating thing. I've never tried a dexterity game before, so I think I'm going to have give it a go. But as always, thank you so much. Your stand has been amazing. It's been very hard to get in touch with you because you've just been rammed the entire time we've been here. So
yeah, I should have brought more stock.
Yeah, you should have. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that one. This has been a fascinating stand. It's been great to see it being so busy. And keep watching the live blog and everything on the live channel, and we'll see you again very soon.